They dragged him out of the store like a criminal. People were recording, some were laughing, some were judging, and he kept saying just one thing: "Please, just check the camera." But no one listened, because in their eyes, he already looked guilty. The store was loud, crowded, and unforgiving that evening, filled with the restless energy of people who had already given too much of their day to work, traffic, and disappointment. Carts collided, announcements echoed from the ceiling, impatience was running dangerously low. In the middle of all that noise walked Ethan Cole, a 32-year-old man who had learned long ago how to take up as little space as possible. His shoulders were slightly hunched, not from weakness, but from years of carrying responsibility quietly. He wore a faded brown jacket, sleeves slightly frayed, and shoes that had clearly outlived their best days. To most people, he looked ordinary. To some, he looked suspicious, and to a few, he looked guilty before he ever did anything wrong. Ethan had come straight from a 14-hour night shift at a warehouse where the lights never dimmed and the work never slowed. His hands were rough, his body sore, but his mind was focused on one thing alone: his mother. She had been sick for weeks, her voice growing weaker every time she spoke, yet still strong enough that morning to remind him gently not to forget her medicine. That reminder echoed in his head as he walked through the aisles, carefully placing bread and milk into his basket, checking prices twice, calculating silently how much he could afford and how much he could not. When he reached the medicine shelf, he hesitated longer than he wanted to admit. The price was higher than he expected. He stood there, breathing slowly, then picked it up anyway. Some things were not optional, some sacrifices were automatic. What Ethan did not know was that eyes had already settled on him, not because of anything he had done, but because of how he looked. The security guard noticed him first, watching from a distance with a gaze shaped more by assumption than evidence. In a store like this, people like Ethan were often seen as problems waiting to happen. As Ethan moved toward the checkout, his steps slow and tired, the moment arrived suddenly, violently, and without warning. A sharp voice cut through the noise of the store, loud enough to make every head turn. "Hey, stop right there!" The sound froze the air. Ethan stopped, confused, his heart jumping before his mind could catch up. Before he could even speak, a firm hand grabbed his arm, fingers digging in with authority that did not ask permission. Accusations followed quickly, spilling out without care or proof. He was told he had hidden something, that he thought he was clever, that people like him always tried this. Ethan's words came out softly, unevenly, as he tried to explain that he had done nothing wrong, that he was willing to be searched, that he just wanted to pay and go home. Around them, a circle formed, strangers leaning in as if this was entertainment rather than humiliation. Phones were raised, whispers spread like wildfire, faces hardened with judgment. In that moment, Ethan felt something heavier than fear settle into his chest. Shame. Not because he was guilty, but because he was powerless. When they searched him and found nothing, relief should have followed, but it didn't. Instead, the suspicion only grew stronger, as if innocence itself was not convincing enough. The store manager arrived with an air of impatience, clearly more annoyed by the disruption than concerned with the truth. Ethan pleaded calmly, his voice cracking despite his effort to stay composed. He asked them to check the CCTV, believing the truth, once seen, would end everything. But the manager laughed, dismissive and cold, making it clear that Ethan's request was not worth the time. That laugh hurt more than the grip on his arm. It told him something terrible and final, that his words did not matter here. Someone in the crowd suggested calling the police, another demanded he be thrown out. With every second, Ethan felt smaller, more invisible, as if his entire life had been reduced to a single assumption by strangers who would forget him by tomorrow. When they finally pushed him toward the exit, Ethan did not resist. His body was tired, but his spirit was exhausted. He asked one last time,
quietly, almost desperately, for them to check the camera. It was not a demand, it was not anger, it was hope clinging to its final thread. And then, just before the doors opened, a calm but firm voice cut through the tension and stopped everything. A woman stepped forward from the side, someone no one had paid attention to until that moment. Her presence shifted the room instantly. She did not raise her voice, she did not accuse, she simply asked for the CCTV footage, and suddenly, everyone listened. As the screen played back the footage, the truth unfolded slowly and mercilessly. The camera showed Ethan exactly as he said he had been, careful, hesitant, honest. Then it showed someone else, a well-dressed man, confident, clean, unnoticed. While Ethan stood debating prices, the real thief casually slipped the medicine into his bag, hidden by confidence and appearance. The room went silent. The same people who had shouted moments ago now looked away. The manager's face drained of color. The security guard released Ethan's arm as if suddenly aware of its weight. Apologies came, awkward and hollow, but they arrived too late to undo what had already been done. The woman, later revealed to be a regional director, spoke directly to Ethan, her voice steady but sincere. She apologized without excuses and paid for his items herself. Ethan accepted them quietly, not with gratitude, but with a deep, tired understanding of how fragile fairness could be. As Ethan walked out of the store, no one stopped him, no one filmed him, and no one spoke. Outside, under the city lights, Ethan finally allowed himself to breathe. He held the bag tightly, knowing that tonight his mother would have her medicine. Yet the heaviness in his chest remained, a reminder that dignity could be taken in seconds and restored only partially. That night, Ethan learned something painful and unforgettable. He learned that truth doesn't always protect you immediately, that innocence isn't always loud enough, and that judgment often arrives long before evidence does. The real criminal had been exposed, but the damage done to an innocent man could not be erased so easily. Never decide someone's worth based on how they look, speak, or stand. Because sometimes the one being dragged out in shame is innocent, and the real criminal is walking freely among us, protected by confidence, comfort, and silence.